So you've hit level 60 and open your inventory, and wow, there's a whole new set of numbers next to your gear. Is your purple gear worthless? Gypsum, orbs, cast, bumps, grind. What does it all mean? Hey there, YouTube. My name is Hot Soup. Thanks for clicking on the video. With the overwhelming positive reception to the latest patch, the Heart of Madness, I'm seeing a lot of folks coming back to New World or new players giving it a shot, which is great to see. A question I've seen repeated almost every day on the forums and subreddit is, what do I do when I hit level 60? So for those folks, I hope this video helps. I'm going to give you an overall summary of the endgame experience and hopefully point you to some goals to help better focus your progression after you hit that max level. So let's get into it.
Hansu.
So back to these numbers. What are they? It's your expertise score, and it's per armor and jewelry slot, and also per weapon. And what is expertise? Well, simply put, expertise determines the potential gear score of items dropped by bosses and looted out of chests. And as of a few patches ago, expertise also determines how items you equip at a higher gear score are scaled down in relation to your expertise. Currently, that formula is the average of your expertise score and gear score of the item that you're equipping. A real simple example is if you have an expertise score of 500 on your blunderbuss and you equip a gear score 600 blunderbuss, then the functional gear score of that blunderbuss is scaled down to 550 while you have it equipped. And it does show you this very easily in the game, to the devs' credit. As you raise your expertise level, these scaled items will also raise with it, so don't feel like you're wasting anything by equipping higher gear score items. New World's endgame can be surmised in the two loops I'm showing here, the expertise grind and the umbral grind. Your goal in the expertise grind is to hit 600 expertise on all those armor and jewelry slots and at least 2 weapons, your favorite primary and secondary. Once you've done that, you graduate to the umbral grind. This one's less intensive, but essentially your goal is to get everything up to 625 expertise in gear score, using what the game calls umbral shards. As a fresh level 60, you're going to be spending a lot of time in the expertise grind, so let's focus there. Depending on how much you play and how much you're willing to do the activities that you may not enjoy, it can take a few weeks to months in order to get through this expertise grind. Fortunately, since January, the devs have actually provided a lot more ways to bump up your expertise, and they implemented some quality of life changes to make the whole experience easier and manageable. So you're coming in at a good time. Let's take a closer look at these activities. The chess run is essentially a group of people just getting together and running through the elite point of interest. Sometimes you'll see them called world tours, and there are groups that will actually run through all of the elite zones in the game. It can sometimes take about 2 hours to get through all of them. Don't feel like you have to do all of them. I would say try and hit 1 chess run in 1 elite zone at least once a day. I personally find these mind-numbingly boring, but it's no denying it's one of the easiest ways to improve your expertise scores, especially early on. These chests do have a daily cooldown, so on the efficiency side, you can do these once a day in each elite zone. Expeditions are the dungeons in the game, and they're pretty rewarding. You can get expertise bumps from the chests within the expeditions, but the bosses also drop the gypsum and guarantee you a expertise bump as well. So you definitely want to do these. Now, the recommended gear score is usually 530 or higher on these. The newest one, the Tempest Heart, actually recommends a 560 or higher. So just keep that in mind before you start running these dungeons. Gypsum orbs are another effective way of upping your expertise scores. They're rewarded in pretty much every activity in the game. They do have daily limits and different requirements of amounts. I'm going to put on the screen the guide that my company uses. That's really helpful in showing all the requirements to get an orb. You can't really do all of these every day unless you're spending a whole lot of time in the game, but I would try and shoot for at least 2 or 3 of these every play session. Arena battles are these pretty easy fights with bosses. You can do them at a fresh level 60, and I highly suggest you try and get one in a few times a week. You are guaranteed an expertise bump from the reward chest, and you can get 2 gypsum orbs from them if you fight them twice. And the faction vendor is actually where you can get material to craft orbs to do the expeditions or the arenas, and even just outright buy a gypsum orb. So definitely is going to be part of your expertise grind here. You're going to be grinding faction points on a regular basis, and it's super rewarding to do so. Once you've completed that expertise grind, now you're moving on to the Umbral Shard grind. There's a few activities here that will give you Umbral Shards, and this can take you weeks and months again to get up to 625, depending on how much you play. OPR now becomes a very viable path for progression. You're not only getting the gypsum orbs to craft casts in order to get Umbral Shards, but you're also getting Umbral Shards as a straight reward, win or lose in the match. And in order to get additional Umbral Shards, you're going to want to run mutated expeditions. So these are versions of the expeditions with a lot harder enemies and different curses that introduce new mechanics. There's a new dungeon that's unlocked every week with the mutation, and you're going to have to find a pretty steady group to get high up in the mutation. There's 10 levels to do. It really starts getting rewarding at level 7 and above. It's pretty easy to get to gear score 620, expertise 620 with the early mutations, but really in order to get that 625, you're going to be grinding thousands of Umbral Shards, and you'll need to get to those higher expedition levels. So in summary, you're grinding out your expertise until you have 600 expertise on all your armor and jewelry slots and 2 of your primary weapons, and you're accumulating gear that's at a gear score of 590 to 600. That's your goal. All the time you're repeating this for weeks and possibly months, depending on how much you play. From there, you graduate to the Umbral grind, where you're doing activities on a loop, try and get Umbral Shards so you can get that gear score up to 625. The mutations have gear score requirements, and that's the main reason that you're trying to do it, is to get your gear score up. Now, I will say that if you want to participate in some of the larger PvP actions, such as wars and influence pushing, you will have to get your gear score up, as well as a lot of teams will just not slot you into a war unless your gear score is at max. So this is something that you will have to do if you value those activities. Well, that's it for the presentation. I really hope you found that useful. I thought I'd round out this video with answering some frequently asked questions that I see on a daily basis on the official forums and even on the subreddit. So let's get to it. Does it matter if I'm focused on PvP or PvE? Yes and no, and mainly yes. As you can see on the 2 loops, there's a lot more PvE activities than PvP. So yeah, you can just do OPR, which is really the only PvP option for you at level 60. The wars are available too, but if you're at a low gear score expertise, the chances of you getting slotted in a war are very slim. So yes, you will have to do a lot of PvE. Keep that in mind. You can just do PvP, you will progress, but it's going to take you a lot longer. Should I buy my gear off of the market? Should I craft it? You know, armor definitely should be bought off of the market. I made a previous video about this, of how bad the RNG is on the drops. The chances of you getting a true upgrade from any of the activities is really slim. So yeah, go straight to the market, buy what you can afford. You want to get as high gear score as you can. Trying to get a 600 legendary item might be too expensive for you with good perks, but definitely in the GS 598 to 599, you can get some great deals out there. But I should mention that most best in slot weapons can actually be dropped in dungeons. So what most people will do is that they'll use their market weapons until they get up to an expertise of 590, and then they'll start farming dungeons for their best in slot weapons. You'll have to do some research on what that is. Crafting is a huge investment, and maybe you have the time and the goal to do so. Most people don't. I would say stay away from crafting until you've gotten really good stuff upgraded, but that's your choice, really. I probably will make another video diving into the real gambling aspect of crafting in this game is really not in your favor, and I would highly suggest, unless you have a really large company backing you up, feeding you resources, or giving you opportunities to roll on certain items, I would stay away from it. Should I use umbrals on purple items? I see this asked a lot. Yes, if you have 2 perks on the item that are good for you, definitely upgrade it. Don't wait for the perfect drop. On my main spear build, I have had a purple chest for months now because I really can't get a chest that has the weapon perk that I want and the main attributes that I want. So really, upgrade your purple items. It'll get you through the mutations and most of the content in the game. PvP may be a different story. You may want to try and hunt for the best perks there before you upgrade it to 625. But on the PvE side, definitely upgrade those purples. Do I need different gear in PvP versus PvE? Absolutely. The resilient perk is one of the best perks in PvP. It mitigates the damage from crit attacks, and crit damage happens a lot in this game. So it's especially useful for you to get a set that has resilient on every single piece. You can force a craft of an item with resilient by purchasing an item in the vendor shop. But really, what you prioritize is up to you. Do some research around this. Every build has different PvP perks that are good for it. So you will have to look into that. But resilient is a must-have on gear, and that alone makes you need a different set of gear for PvP versus PvE. One last note on this. Yes, you can get by in Outpost Rush with your PvE gear. You're not going to top the standings or anything. You will get through it. So if you are competitive in PvP and you really want to make a big impact in PvP activities like OPR, you will need to invest in your own PvP gear. This activity is boring. Do I have to do it? No. One of the great thing about this game is that you can do what you want. There's a lot of activities for you to do. So if you don't want to do chest runs, don't do chest runs. Focus on expeditions. If you don't want to do expeditions, you just want to do OPR, you can focus on that. It is going to hit your efficiency in terms of progression, but for your own mindset, your whole health of mind, you want to mix up the different activities that you do when you play the game. I see this asked in my global chat all the time. I'm doing a chest run in this zone, but not getting bumps. What gives? Well, there's actually a level limit on the expertise bumps that you can get in some of the elite zones. So I'm going to splash this grid on the screen that will hopefully help you. You can pause and take a look at it. You will outlevel certain zones. So when you're starting to do world tours or chest runs, just make sure that you're on the zone that is going to give you an expertise bump. This is for my forum and Reddit haters. The constant, I'm 625 in everything. I've done everything in the game. I've got all the gear that I could need. What should I do now? This game sucks. Hey, man. You've beaten the game at this point. You're in like the top 1% that has 625 in everything in both a PvP set and a PvE set. Just go out and touch some grass, and we'll see you in the next patch. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for making it to the end here. I really appreciate it. Hey, if you like the content that I'm making, please hit that like button. If you want me to do more, please hit the subscribe. It's how I know I'm on the right track. So thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in Eternum.